Hello, everybody. My name is Pebbles, and today I'm going to be doing something a little bit different. Um, so, for all those people who don't know, I'm back in school now. I'm back in a regular dorm, no longer in my house anymore. So, videos are going to be very far and few in between. It's going to be very sporadic. I can't really predict when I'm going to be able to record because I actually live with somebody now. Even right now, he's not even in the room, so I'm lucky enough to even get this little portion out. But yeah, so a lot of the things I was actually preparing to do before I left, I wasn't able to do. A lot of the videos that I pre-recorded, I wasn't actually able to get them out. So yeah, a little bit bummed out about that. But I want to start something new, something that's kind of a passion of mine, something that I've always wanted to do with YouTube is, with this commentary type of thing that I'm doing, is a series where I just talk about stuff that I kind of been pondering about in like past weeks or even this week. Um, and I I don't want it to be like my regular videos where I just talk about anything, like stuff that happens in my day or anything like that. I want it to be more like philosophical stuff that is more, that you can actually think about. And this actually ties into a video that I'm working on right now about the state of YouTube, which should should stay tuned for that. But I think this series is going to be called Speed Talks because I don't know what game I'm going to be playing over this, but I think it's going to be that speed brawl game. So it kind of works, Speed Talks. But today, the topic of today is um, gotcha game gambling. And why I don't really understand it. I've never, like, I mean, and saying I don't understand it is an understatement, right? Because it's obvious what it is. But or for the people who understand gotcha gambling or gotcha games, usually understand it with the whole gambling, the whole gambling undertone, overtone. But to just keep it short, we'll just define some things really quickly. A gotcha game, or gotcha itself, gotcha the word, is a Japanese word that refers to a game that features a type of toy. So think of back in the 90s when they had those pachinko machines, those little ball machines that you can like stick a quarter in and it comes, something that you probably want comes out or something that you don't want comes out. That's basically what it is. It's basically the illusion of thinking you're going to get something good and you get something made. Kind of like gambling, but kind of not like gambling because you're not really losing a lot. Like the risk reward factor isn't as bad, but it is definitely like an entry level drug. Like think of vaping, and I don't even know, smoking cigarettes. I honestly don't know. But yeah, that's what gotcha. You know, that's what the word gotcha is. Now, gotcha game is completely different. Now, that's when you really get into um, the whole gambling multiverse. Gotcha games, in its definition, I wrote this down, is a video game that uses a gachapon style mechanic to encourage players to spend money for a chance to win a random in-game item, similar to loot boxes. Was what I also wrote down. So yeah, that's super dangerous because a lot of these games are more targeted towards children. It's more targeted towards kids. So, when I started, I played Genshin Impact. I know that's the one thing everybody thinks about, but hear me out here. When I way back in the day, I think in 2020 or 2021, when did Genshin even come out? I don't even remember, but somewhere around that time, I picked up Genshin because I thought it was a really cool gaming idea. I thought, open world mobile game, that's awesome. You know, um, way back in the day when I didn't have a bank account or anything like that, when I was using my parents' money, I was greatly introduced to this style of gaming. I didn't really play COD that much, so I wasn't really familiar with loot boxes. I did play Brawl Stars, but it wasn't in any way the same because you didn't have to really spend money. I mean, and you can look at it now. Like any game you look at will probably have some type of gachapon style of gachapon mechanic where you put in money in a chance to win something big, basically gambling. Like let's just be honest with this right now. And the way that these companies go about it is absolutely sickly. Like I find it kind of nasty the way these companies kind of abuse their player base. And if you look at the drops, I mean, I really didn't look up, too much. I kind of just wrote down a few things and put on my mic, but if I can remember now, the drops, some companies put certain drops that are just like completely awful, like really really bad. Um, so where you can put like $30 for like in-game currency to buy something, like for example, Genshin I think has a banner style where they have like a character that's on a banner, so like a seasonal character or a monthly character, during a rotation of a patch, and that character is something that either a newly released character or a really really OP character that a lot of players would really want, and the drop chances will be like 0.01 0.01, and the items that are the most like common are uh are stuff like really mid items, like my items that you probably get really common, like in-game currency already, like low tier in-game currency, like not the in-game currency you can actually buy stuff with, but the in-game currency that you don't really need, to upgrade weapons or something. So it's a really, really toxic mechanic of putting your trust in this system. And I think actually TF2 or I don't know, some way back in the day, there or no, not TF2, Counter Strike had this system of loot boxes, and I think it actually got banned, but because it's literally just gambling. But this is basically the exact same way. It may be a little bit less predatory than something like gacha. Loot boxes are a little bit less predatory, but it's still the same mechanic, and that's why I think it's extremely dangerous, especially when it's targeted toward kids. Like Counter-Strike did this whole thing where it was targeted towards kids. Like if you look at any type of loot box type of game that you put money in and you get something out of it, that's maybe not as maybe is not as common or something like that. uh you get it's just a bad style. I honestly hate honestly hate gotcha games. Try to stay away from them because spending money on games is good enough, but once you're spending money on for grinding, it's just less rewarding for me. And also, who wants to give their money to somebody like that? But yeah, I have a few points here that I want to kind of look into. Number one is the addictive gaming design of gacha games. Let me see what I wrote down here. Okay, so gacha systems use a variable ratio reinforcement rule schedule. Sorry, a variable ratio reinforcement schedule, where rewards are unpredictable and sporadic. This means the mechanism is often or not seen in slot machines and stuff like that, and it's really 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 addictive because like remember I know you guys know that meme where gamblers quit, like 99% of gamblers quit right before they make it big, and you want to be that 1% so bad. You want to be that big, that big group of people that gets the what's it called, that can get the character. You want to be that 1% of people that are your friends may not have the character but you have it, so now you're a rare account. Same idea, and it's actually really really dangerous because it targets people that are compulsive buyers, who have like compulsive gambling habits, people who see a price tag but see the effect, like the reward of it, and I think it's actually like a dopamine high for some people, where they get this reward, this anticipation of a reward. you know that's what gets people hooked. It's that high that you could get something, and when you don't get something, okay, well, try again, and try again and try again and try again until you physically and literally financially cannot try again. It's a dangerous psychological habit. Another thing is psychological manipulation through loss aversion. Gotcha games often employ sunk cost fallacy. Yeah, that's a big word. I had to look that one up. And loss aversion. Players feel compelled to keep spending because they're already invested time and money, fearing the loss of prior efforts. So this kind of brings us back to that first point of, you know, people who try to chase that high. You have the other people who fear losing, fear the how much you put into it. And I know I personally, like, I won't say that I've never fallen into like gacha gaming at all. Like I said, I played Genshin before, so yeah, I put like maybe a few, definitely not like hundreds of dollars into Genshin, but I definitely put a lot of money, not a lot of money, but enough money into Genshin Impact to the point where I was I was wasting money. And I was scared that, and actually, a more recent example is Zenless Zone Zero. I put at least maybe $50 into that game just to get a character that I really, really liked. And I wasn't chasing the high of getting the character. I was scared that once I put my first few dollars in, I'm going to have to do it again because I already knew I'm probably not going to get it on the first drop. So you just keep doing it and doing it and doing it and doing it until, you're basically stuck in a hole. That's how these gaming companies, that's how these loot box gacha gaming companies gotcha. That's how they get you. And it's really, really sad. A research though that I wrote in was I'm gonna probably get the name wrong, but I'll probably put it up on the screen here. Kahneman and Seversky. I'm sorry. Tversky. In 1979, they created this theory, this experiment, and this theory called prospect theory, and it's basically the theory of individuals prefer avoiding losses over acquiring equivalent gains, making them more susceptible to overspending. So basically, this means that they avoid loss by acquiring more, and that's what kind of gets them into spending more. That's basically what it is. And that's really, really sad. And the reason why I really made these videos, because I see a lot of like younger people especially get into this hole where they spend so much, on these games, and it's kind of unfair. They're getting themselves into a hole that they can't get out of. Like, people laugh at people with addictions, but it's really something that a lot of people it's hard for them to get out of, because they're either getting high or they're scared of the low that they can get into. um, and this is actually my next point, and it kind of brings me to my next point, sort of. And I call this the illusion of control, which is a hard ass title. Thank you, ChatGPT, for giving me this title. Um, but illusion of control, you know, I wrote down many gacha games use animations or interactive elements that create false sense of control over the outcome, leading players to believe their actions influence the results. That is massive, and that's actually basically what um, gacha games like Zenless Zone Zero uh, and Genshin Impact do. And Honkai Sorrow, I don't really know. I've never played it, but that's what those games do. And there's definitely a plethora of more games. I know Brawlhalla does something like that. Brawlhalla, my favorite game in the entire world, I know, that does loot boxes. Although it's a little bit less predatory because, I think the drop rates of the really, really rare items are just the same as any other item. So, I mean, it's not as bad, but you're still putting in at least like what, $10, $5 into buying a chest. So, that's the unfortunate reality of that. But yeah, they create these animations or interactive elements where it looks like you might get something big. I know Zenless Zone Zero was a big, big, big criminal of this, because I fell so much into this trap of feeling like I'm going to get an S rank character, and they turn that little stupid TV box and I get a B rank character after spending like 20, 25, $30 on what they do is they tell you that you can get a guaranteed item at your 10th box opening. So you have to buy these boxes like several times to get a higher percent chances of getting a character, which is awful. It makes you feel like, okay, I'm gonna get something big, I'm gonna get something big, I'm gonna get an A rank, I'm gonna get an S rank, and then they put you in that B rank, and then you start the cycle over again with loss aversion. You get the point. This is actually oh, okay. That was a little bit weird. But a study by Langer in 1975 on the illusion of control showed that people are more likely to overestimate their influence in situations involving chance, fostering continued engagement with the game. So it's exactly with the Zone Zero example that I brought up. You feel like you're about to get something good, and then you don't, and then the cycle just continues. Because all this is just basically a cycle. You know, um, and last point that I'm gonna bring up. I have a few more points, but I wanted to keep this video generally a little bit short. Um, is the psychological, emotional distress that these gacha games give, and the targeting of vulnerable peoples. So people that um, are not as financially stable as they think they may be. Because like they make the prices really low, like $5 for one box is great, but that $5 can quickly turn into 50 in no time at all. That $5 can turn into $100 at the end of the day. And then before you know that, you're in debt. Or I know $100 seems like really small, but I've heard people that have dropped thousands of dollars on games, which I think is mind-boggling. And I'm not here to like shoot you down and say you have an addiction to buying things on video games. You're an awful person. Like, I buy things on games. That is not the problem. The actual problem is when you start to overspend, when you start to overestimate how much you're really buying, and it affects the people who are less fortunate, people that actually can't afford these things, like children or young adults who really don't have their life put together, but they play video games. And video games give us this feeling of this dopamine, right? Like, we get happy when we're playing a game. Like, our brain is kind of more focused at some certain tasks, and it just gives us this euphoric feeling. And when you mix in the euphoric feeling of playing video games, this comfortable feeling of playing video games with gambling, that's when the problem arises. you know and finally, the normalization of gambling behavior. Nowadays, gacha systems and gacha games, it really blurs the line between gambling and, gambling like behaviors in young people. Like, there's the gacha verse, the gacha verse, the Genshin Impact universe is filled, or the community is filled with these little children that don't know anything, people that are in middle school, high school, that don't really know anything about anything yet, but I mean, they know how to gamble. It's sad. It's really, really sad to see. And I know I'm not in any way to, talk to anybody like I'm some type of, pastor or something. I think one thing that's really important that I want, if you watch this far into the video and anything, I want you to take away that, what am I spending my money on? It's as simple as that. Asking yourself, what am I spending my money on? Is it something that in the long term is going to help me out, or in the short term, is going to give me a high? Because at the end of the day, it's all just a psychological feeling in your head, that gets you to do these things. So yeah, that's kind of I don't really know how to end this video, but yeah, gambling, gacha games and gambling is really dangerous. And yes, you can continue to do it. I'm not telling you not to do it. I think it's, in and of itself, it's dangerous. But it's only dangerous when you give it that ability to be dangerous. When you give it the passage to be a threat in your life, a financial threat in your life. What I say personally is, to always look at your spending, to always see what you're spending your money on. Always think about that. Not just, even if it's shiny and everyone's buying it. I know I play games like Valorant that I see my friends have these crazy cool knives. I still have the same goofy knife that I've had for now almost a year. I don't care. I don't care about the big shiny things. I mean, Valorant really, it doesn't really change the game much if you have a cool gun. You can still play with the default Vandal. It doesn't change anything. But people. So just notice the ways that these companies can trick you with shiny objects and rare items, mythic items, or really, really powerful characters that they never really want to balance because they know that they want people to buy these characters. Yeah, I'm definitely looking at you, Zone Zero. That's why I deleted you. But yeah, just look at generally those type of things, and I think you'll be all right, you know. Um, but yeah, stay safe out there because these companies, they don't care about you. They care about their wallet. They may say nice things, you know. They may do nice things, but they always want your money, and that's how you got to think about it at the end of the day.
Let's go gambling! Aw, dang it! 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 Aw, dang it!